All right, here comes chapter 4. So we're on 1 Samuel chapter 4. It's page 415. It says the Philistines capture the ark. Okay, now remember the Ark of the Covenant is like something that's super sacred. It's got a bunch of different things in it that are very holy and important to the Israelites. Um, God dwells in it for the Israelite people, and so that's something that they want that is very sacred to them. They have to handle it in a certain way. They actually can't even touch it. They have to hold it up on these like poles. If anybody does touch it, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you anymore because we're going to read about it. So anyway, it says the Philistines capture the ark. Okay, Philistines, not Israelites. Philistines are going to take the ark. This isn't going to end well. Okay, it actually gets really weird. So it says, now the Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer and the Philistines at Aphek. And the Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel. And as the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. When the soldiers returned to camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord bring defeat on us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark for the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that he may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies." So now they're thinking, well, if we just bring the ark with us, then God will take care of us, right? And in the notes, it talks about how the elders think that the reason why they lost was because God was displeased with them. And so maybe if they brought the ark, that having the Lord's presence there would be better. But in the notes, what's interesting, it says, but they incorrectly believed that the Lord's presence with the ark was guaranteed. Right? So just because you have the ark doesn't always mean that you're safe, because God is still going to do what he wants to do. You can't use God when you want to, right? That's not how God works. And that's what they're about to find out. Okay. We are on verse 4. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord Almighty, who was enthroned between the cherubim. And Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant. When the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp, all Israel raised such a great shout that the ground shook. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines asked, "What's all this shouting in the Hebrew camp?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. "A god has come into the camp," they said. "Oh no, nothing like this has happened before. We're doomed. Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods?" They are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the kinds of plagues in the wilderness. "Be strong, Philistines. Be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated. And every man fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Right, so once again, God said they would die on the same day. Boom, just happened. Okay. So not only did they die, but the Ark of the Covenant was captured. That's not going to look good for Israel. So I'm actually going to keep going. So now it says the death of Eli, right? We're on a roll with deaths here. We might as well keep going with Eli. All right, so verse 12, it says, that same day a Benjamite ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh with his clothes torn and dust on his head. If you are in that time period and your clothes are torn and you have dust on your head, you are showing an outward appearance of how you are feeling inside. Something has happened, okay? It's usually a sign of mourning. So if someone sees you, they know that you have lost someone. You're mourning the loss of somebody. So this guy, this Benjamite, comes with ripped clothes and dust all over him, right? When he arrived, there was Eli sitting on his chair by the side of the road, watching, because his heart feared for the ark of God. When the man entered the town and told what had happened, the whole town sent up a cry. Eli heard the outcry and asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man hurried over to Eli, who was 98 years old, and whose eyes had failed so that he could not see. Okay, so mind you, he did not die at a young age. We know that his ancestors will, right? But because that didn't happen to him, God said, eyes will be bad and you'll be weak, right? So that's what's happening with him. He told Eli, "I have just come from the battle line. I fled from it this very day." Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The man who brought the news replied, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered heavy losses. Also, your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate. His neck was broken, and he died, for he was an old man, and he was heavy. Why do you think he was heavy? What was he eating? All right. He had led Israel 40 years. Okay. So notice he didn't fall back and drop dead because his sons had died. It's when he heard that the ark of God was taken that he realized how bad things really got, how bad things really were going to be, that he couldn't bear it any longer and fell back and boom, dead, right? It would be an interesting skit. I wonder who would play Eli. I sense Nathaniel, right? But who would play Hophni and Phinehas? I don't know. I feel like Elisha and Talon maybe, but they're both so sweet. It would be almost ironic to have them play those 2 parts. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when we're going to go back to school or what's going on. But it would be interesting to see what kind of play we would end up doing with that, because a lot of interesting things are happening, right? All right. Verse 19, his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near the time of delivery. When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth, but was overcome by her labor pains. As she was dying, the women attending her said, "Don't despair, you have given birth to a son," but she did not respond or pay any attention. Okay, so how sad is that? That poor lady, right? She finds out her father-in-law is dead, the ark's captured, her husband's dead, and now she's basically dying in childbirth. Rough life. Okay, anyway, before she goes, she names her son. She names her son Ichabod, right? Saying, "The glory has departed from Israel," which is what Ichabod means. It means no glory, which is a really sad name to name your poor child. Anyway, so she says the glory has departed from Israel because of the capture of the ark of God and the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband. She said, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured." Right? So poor Ichabod. What a horrible way to come into the world. Your dad is already dead and your mom just died after giving birth to you, right? That's a rough one. I'll have to look in scripture and see if there's any more mention of Ichabod, see what happens with him. I don't know if there is, but I'll look. I'll get back to you on that one. All right, so what I want you guys to do is comment on the Philistines capturing the ark and anything on the death of Eli. Any comment on that would be good. We'll get into what happens with the ark. It gets really interesting and weird and kind of funny. I know that sounds weird, but it is. So we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, love you.